Okay, last we were. I'd given you a definition for a superimposed political boundary, which you can see there. Now, let's have a look at that border between India and Pakistan. All right? We have the border between India and Pakistan running right over here. This country is Pakistan over here. India is over here. You can see how Punjab state has essentially been split into two by the border being drawn in 1947. Now, if I was to ask you why would you think that Pakistan wanted to control all of Punjab state, you might, simplistically say, of course, you want as much territory as you can get, especially since it's a valuable state like a valuable territory like Punjab. All right, that's certainly the case. All right, but it is insufficient as it is. Pakistan considered this an important issue to control as much of Punjab state as possible. They would try, they wouldn't get it, but they considered it an issue. And if I was to ask you why, you can see the reason located here on this map. This is, again, Pakistan, the country of Pakistan right over here. And what you can see is that Pakistan is essentially a river valley. All right, you have the Indus River flowing over here. This is a dry, arid area. This is the Thar Desert. And thus, Pakistan is a riverine culture, essentially. The country is overwhelmingly oriented to the banks of the Indus. You can see that here in this image. This is Pakistan all in here, and you can see how dry and arid it is. The Indus River is running right down the country, and you can see what the good arable land is, which will, of course, correspond with population distribution. Punjab state is located up here to the east-northeast of the country, and thus you can see how the tributary rivers that are heading into this critically important feature, the Indus River, the tributary rivers are running into India. Therefore, it becomes a national security concern that you have critical feeder rivers into your society that's oriented to a singular river like the Indus. You have those tributary rivers in a neighboring country, and especially a hostile neighboring country. So you can understand why Pakistan wanted to get all of Punjab. Of course, they didn't. Nevertheless, you can understand why, and it'll become relevant again in a minute, in any case. Now, as you can see here, we have Punjab state essentially split by the superimposed political boundary. And when we get up to Kashmir, we have the Kashmir issue, which I discussed already. But if I was to ask you why Pakistan wanted all of Kashmir, which I'm likely to do, you can answer that question momentarily as well. All right? Now, the situation has resulted, as you can see here, in a control line between India and Pakistan. Kashmir has essentially been split. There has been essentially two major substantial wars in Kashmir between Pakistan and India since 1947. Some would say three. And it has resulted in the division of Kashmir in the fashion that you can see here. All right? More or less, however imperfect, there has been a ceasefire line here, roughly speaking, and you have roughly a 50-50 split in territory. Obviously more in India, but let's not worry about that. Roughly a 50-50 split in territory has resulted after the wars since 1947 between Pakistan and India. All right, this is the boundary from the 1975 ceasefire accord that has left essentially the situation as a stalemate. Now, by the way, India is willing to consider this the national border right there. All right, India has a half and Pakistan has a half. Pakistan is not. Pakistan says this issue is not yet resolved. Now, the reason for that is because while roughly speaking you have a 50-50 split in territory, that's not the case in terms of population. 80% of the population of Kashmir, which is predominantly Muslim, is in the Indian sector. So remember, although you have a fairly even split in territory, the vast majority of the population is in the Indian section. Therefore, from Pakistan's point of view, this is not a resolved problem, because this means that this Indian state has a Muslim majority. And remember, what was the purpose of drawing a partition line in 1947 to separate Pakistan from India? Was to make sure that, for the most part, Hindus are dominated by Hindu India and ruled by Hindu India, and that Muslim-dominated areas would be dominated or controlled by Pakistan, or part of Pakistan. All right, to get Pakistan, to get Muslims ruling Muslims and Hindus ruling Hindus. Yet you end up with this situation that we have still today, where you have essentially this. All right, this is a map of India, and you can see the Muslim concentrations in India, and more or less the partition line that created or separated India from Pakistan has effectively separated, all right, Hindu-dominated zones from Muslim-dominated zones. All right, as you can see, for the most part, there's Muslim minorities in India, but the majority population is Hindu, with one major exception that you need to know. And look up here at the state of Kashmir. You can see it's dark colored over here, and that means more than 80% Muslim. So you end up with a circumstance in India where, for the most part, in each state, you have a Hindu majority, all right, with one major exception, and that's Kashmir. All right. In fact, you can look at this map here and with the statistics associated with it, and you can see within India how Muslims generally are in a socio-economically inferior position compared to Muslims, and that fuels a lot of the hostility between Muslims and Hindus, between Pakistan and India on the subcontinent. The unemployment rate for Muslims is higher, as you can see here. The illiteracy rate is substantially higher, as you can see here. The per capita GDP is a mere fraction of what it is for Muslims compared to their Hindu comrades, in any case. So that's what you need to know in terms of Kashmir, that it is the only state within India that has a Muslim majority. And therefore, you've had active rebellion in Kashmir against Hindu domination. And of course, however furtively and sometimes not so furtively, that rebellion is supported by Pakistan. Pakistan will, of course, not publicly admit that. But culturally speaking, informally speaking, of course, if you're in Pakistan, you're going to support your brother and sister Muslims who weren't successful at separating from Hindu-dominated India, in any case. All right. Thus, as you can see here, there has been periodically, and sometimes it gets hotter and sometimes less so, violence in Kashmir over this issue, whether Kashmir should remain part of Hindu-dominated India, in any case. All right. There was another observation that you want to make with this, that usually associated with a test question. This issue is very important to Indian and Muslim alike on the subcontinent, but arguably much more so to Muslims. You can see an expression of that here. The capital of India in 1960 was Karachi. What they decided to do is move the capital way up here to a fairly obscure location and establish a new capital way up here in northern India, in northern Pakistan. And you might ask yourself, well, why did and by the way, this is an expression of a forward capital, all right? It's the relocation of the capital to a certain location as an expression of the state's objectives. Well, what is the state's objectives here? Of course, the movement of the capital to this obscure location is right up near the Kashmir border. And so this is an expression of Pakistan's commitment to this issue in Kashmir, which from their point of view is as yet unresolved. And in fact, if you were going to move your capital to a symbolic new capital way in the interior, what would you call this capital? Look at the name, Islamabad, Islam town, essentially. And so that's an excellent example of a forward capital in Pakistan. Yet another example of forward capital. We'll see many in any case. Now, remember, I mentioned that drawing of the boundary between Pakistan and India was very difficult, certainly in the Punjab region, and of course, still of critical importance is the Kashmir issue. Can anybody, well, I can't ask you obviously unilaterally, but you might posit why Pakistan wants all of Kashmir. Not only the part they control already, but also the Indian sector. And of course, you could say, well, that's because it's a Muslim majority. Certainly, that's an important issue. There's no doubt about it. But let me tell you that materialities always play a significant, if not dominant, role. They're not mentioned openly. When this issue is largely discussed, it's a matter of freeing, from the Pakistan's point of view, Muslims from Hindu domination. But there's, of course, a material reality associated with that here. Remember, I said that Pakistan here is a country, not unlike Egypt, that's overwhelmingly associated with the Indus River, as you can see here. All right. Well, remember, the upper tributaries go over here into India. All right. That's why they wanted all of Punjab. But of course, if you were to follow these tributaries, they continue to the north, further to the north, they go into Kashmir, the Indian-controlled Kashmir. So that becomes yet more of a national security consideration if you're Pakistan, because if you've already got a lot of your feeder rivers coming from India over here in northeastern Pakistan, and now the remaining feeder rivers are up also in Kashmir-controlled India, that becomes a national security concern. So there's another reason why they definitely would like to control that area. All right. We shall see how that situation plays out in the decades that come. But right now, that's a point of substantial contention that has not been resolved in any case. And in fact, you can see an expression of this sense of vulnerability that Pakistan has. When you look at this right over here, this is a map here of here's Pakistan, here's India, here's Indian-controlled Kashmir. Look at that feeder river coming from Pakistan into India-controlled Kashmir. And of course, what does India decide to do up here? It says, hey, look, we have been talking about for some time about establishing some economic development up here, promoting more irrigation projects for our agriculture, and therefore we're going to dam up this river and also other tributaries so that we can develop the region. Now, you know perfectly well that's going to cause shivers down the spine of the Pakistani leadership. That's exactly what it's designed to do. In any case, it shows you how sort of trivial all this can be, nevertheless. All right. Now, as you can see here, with the creation of Pakistan separating from Hindu-dominated India in 1947, at the very time that India gets its independence, you end up with the circumstance with two countries who are clearly antagonistic towards each other. All right? Now, the reason why this is an important issue that you need to know is because this isn't an ordinary problem. You might consider it minor, by and large, if it was just between two underdeveloped countries that are relatively obscure, some would say, from the center of the world economy. I mean, no disrespect to either for saying that. But the reason why it's an important issue that you need to know is because both of these countries have a nuclear arsenal, as is suggested here. All right? You have two countries with long-standing antagonism, and they have a nuclear arsenal. In fact, they periodically have border tensions, as is suggested here, where troops are rushed to the border. Occasionally, shots go across the border. And of course, this is a major concern because they both have a nuclear arsenal. You can insinuate or imply the significance of this when you consider that both countries have cultural groups and political parties which at times consider having the nuclear arsenal to be a sanction of the divine, if you would. And that gets a little scary when people start associating weapons of mass destruction with their divine rights as they interpret them. In any case, it scares the world if these two were to have a nuclear exchange. You can see this image here clearly showing and you cannot see the fineries of these two legends on here. But what it shows you is that both sides have a substantial amount of nuclear infrastructure to service, if you would, this sort of nuclear standoff. And that, what I mean there is, you can see by this map the location of nuclear reactors, plutonium reprocessing plants, sites of uranium enrichment, and uranium mines. Both states have a full complement of nuclear resources for construction, maintenance, and expansion of an atomic threat. And, by the way, critical to note, both sides have the missile delivery system for that nuclear weaponry. It's not enough just to have the bomb. You have to have the delivery system, and both countries have that delivery system. In fact, take a look at this particular inset map up